A new suspect? The unsolved murders of Kimberly Best and Paige Sinclair. Lake Tahoe, 1977. A place known for beauty and escape. But that year, it became the backdrop to a hidden war, a war fueled by drugs, fear, and violence. As the drug trade bloomed in the shadows of the lake's shoreline, law enforcement began cracking down. In one sweep, 21 people were arrested, including enforcers, dealers, and users. One name among them would later emerge again, this time, in the investigation of a brutal double homicide. Larry Fitzgerald was a Vietnam veteran. Decorated, damaged, dangerous. Locals in Kings Beach knew him as a collector, someone who enforced debts with fists or worse. And he was living with a 15-year-old girl named Paige Sinclair. Paige sometimes shared a bed with him. She worked as a housekeeper at the motel where they stayed. But what else she was involved in remains unclear. She had aliases. Secrets. A piece of paper was found in her pocket after her death with the address of the Prima Donna Casino in Reno. A mystery. Why would a girl familiar with Reno need to write down a casino's location? Some said Paige had bussed tables there. Others thought she might have worked under a different name, like she did at the motel. But no employment record was ever found. Then came the tipping point. In September of that year, just weeks before her death, Fitzgerald was the target of a narcotics raid. When detectives moved in, he didn't go quietly. He held an undercover officer hostage for 6 hours with a shotgun. The officer escaped. Paige was the only known witness. And then, she was dead. On October 4, 1977, Paige Sinclair and her friend Kimberly Best were found murdered. Kimberly had been shot. Paige had been bludgeoned with horrifying violence. Not random. Not frenzied. Focused. Personal. Fitzgerald was never charged. But there's more. A week later, 2 more girls, Tracy and Jo, were attacked near the same forested area. The man who lured them into the woods? His name was Larry. He offered drugs, beer, and a ride. Then he changed. He grabbed their throats, forced them to undress, hovered over them, looking for fear. Tracy, thinking fast, faked terror to draw his attention away from Jo. He assaulted her. But when she didn't react the way he expected, he lost control and let them go. They escaped. Barefoot. Ripped clothing. Through the dark woods, hiding until he left. When they made it to safety, police responded quickly. And the first thing they said chilled them. Last week, we pulled 2 girls out of the exact area he took you. They were so badly beaten we couldn't identify them. They showed the girls a photo. It was him. Tracy remembered his name as Larry Clark. But the official records list someone else, Larry Gene Waber. A man who allegedly confessed. A man no one had ever heard of. And then, there's Larry Fitzgerald. 3 Larrys. 3 timelines. One constant: violence, drugs, and a forest that swallowed girls whole. Was Paige's death the silencing of a witness? Was Kimberly simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? During Kenneth Lane's trial, the man falsely accused of the murder's evidence pointing to Fitzgerald was deemed inadmissible. The jury never heard about his assault on an undercover cop. Never knew he held a shotgun to a detective's chest. Never learned Paige was scared of him. And just like that, Fitzgerald walked free. He faded into the background. Moved. Married. Built homes. He lived a long life. And in 2023, he died. But then Tracy came forward again. Decades later, she reached out to authorities. She wanted to know who Larry really was. Not Clark. Not Fitzgerald. But Waber. A name she never recalled. The records said her attack happened in April 1978. But she remembers October. Right after her birthday. Right after the murders. Was the paperwork wrong? Were there multiple attackers? Or has the truth been buried under decades of bad memory and redacted files? The man who assaulted Tracy and Joe vanished. The man who may have killed Paige and Kimberly was never charged. And the man in the police file? A name, a ghost, a question mark. 3 men. 1 Forest Road. Too many unanswered questions. The murders of Kimberly Best and Paige Sinclair remain unsolved. And somewhere out there in old reports, in quiet conversations, in the mind of someone who never came forward, the truth still lingers, waiting to be found. It began with a name. Larry Waber. A footnote in a cold case police file. During the early stages of my research, I started filing Freedom of Information Act requests in the counties where he had lived: California, Washington, Tennessee, Kansas. What came back from King County was disturbing. Larry Gene Waber was born in 1952, in Sunnyside, Washington. His childhood was marked by transience and violence. His mother, Betty, was 15 when she married his father. By the time Larry was a teen, he'd already been exposed to physical abuse, criminal activity, and worse. His stepfathers had long criminal records. One introduced him to drugs and crime, the other, to exploitation of the most disturbing kind. At 19, Waber claimed he was arrested for dating a girl who hung with bikers. But the police report says otherwise. In 1971, using a fake name, Waber picked up a 13-year-old boy and his 12-year-old sister in Wichita, Kansas. He bought wine, took them into the countryside, locked the boy in the trunk and assaulted the girl. She was hospitalized. Waber was arrested the next day. He served 11 months, was paroled, and within a week, committed armed robbery with a .38 caliber revolver. He fled to California. 2 months later, he attacked a 15-year-old girl in Auburn. The charges were dropped. Instead, he was sent to the California Youth Authority for forging a check. He got out, got married, got arrested again. By the time Tracy and Joe met him in October of 1977, Larry Waber had already been arrested for assaulting minors 3 times and convicted for none. Tracy and Joe remembered the night vividly. He lured them into the woods, gave them beer, weed, acid. And then, he turned. He choked them, forced them to undress. But halfway through, he stopped. Tracy thinks it was because she stopped showing fear. She stared through him. And like other times, Waber shrunk, lost his ability to continue. He apologized. He offered to drive them home. They escaped. Police arrested him in Roseville days later. He was in his ex-wife's bathroom, shaving off his sideburns. The girls were told he'd been arrested 4 times for these crimes. None had led to conviction. They were his oldest victims. But days later, police released him. Why? No witnesses left in town. No public will to prosecute. Months passed. The case file would later list their assault as occurring in April 1978. Tracy insists it happened in October, just days after her birthday. I believe her. Waber gave conflicting addresses to courts in Foresthill and Roseville during that time. His mother lived in a trailer near where Paige and Kimberly were murdered. His wife separated or not lived near where Tracy and Joe were picked up. So did Waber attack Tracy and Joe? Every detail fits. Age, physical description, mannerisms, behavior, even the habit of apologizing afterward. But did he kill Kimberly and Paige? They were found dead on October 4, 1977. Kimberly had been shot with a .38 caliber weapon. Paige had been beaten to death. Both showed signs of strangulation but no evidence of sexual assault. Beer cans and cigarette butts littered the scene. That's Waber's MO. Paige was the same age as his previous victims. He was in the area. He had the weapon. He had the history. And he had motive. If Tracy and Joe's attack happened days later, it's not a stretch to believe Waber was escalating or trying to recreate a moment that didn't go as planned. Still, it's never been proven. Waber would go on to commit more attacks. More violations. In Washington, in California, he was diagnosed as a violent sexual predator. He was deemed unsafe to be free. He married again. He reoffended again. And in 2002, he assaulted a girl under the age of 14. For that crime, he was finally locked up for good. He died in prison in 2013. Tracy and Joe never got justice. Kimberly and Paige never got peace. And for decades, no one even spoke Waber's name. The official suspect in the murders of Kimberly Best and Paige Sinclair was Kenneth Lane. But he had no motive. Waber did. Fitzgerald did. The police didn't look deeper. They focused on the wrong man and may have let the right one go free. Shortly after the girls' deaths, the sheriff said something to a reporter that sticks with me. If our society allows someone to go unpunished for something like this, then our society is in a lot of trouble. We were. And maybe, we still are.